Art writing using artificial intelligence. What is AI? So the AI writing is basically a super smart computer program. Um, this might be a little frustrating. Let's see how we can admit people while doing this. Okay. All right, what is the AI? The AI is basically a super smart computer program, and it learned by studying massive amounts of written data from the internet, like books and web pages and the like. There are a few different programs out there, but I've found that ChatGPT is the best one so far. Now, there are a lot of programs that uses ChatGPT's backend, and then they upcharge. So they're basically using ChatGPT's infrastructure and then charging extra for the service. Now, an example. All right. So this is what the ChatGPT infrastructure looks like. So up here, we can do a new chat. Usually there's one conversation per period. So the ChatGPT, one of the things we'll get into is training it. And so ChatGPT only knows a certain amount of information from when its data sources were collected. So basically, I think the cutoff was 2021. So ChatGPT will not know anything from beyond 2021. And so it won't know any like recent exhibitions that have happened, recent news that have happened, and it won't be able to retain any information outside of your current chat session. So that's something also interesting to note, is that whatever you're typing in here, it will remember within the session. So this is just to give you a quick example, but let's say I'd say, give me an outline or a talk on ChatGPT for artists. And it just churns information right out. Now, one of the things I'm going to keep repeating here is that see, all this is that this is best used for a knowledgeable user. So you need to be knowledgeable about what you're writing about in order to get the most out of this software. But it you know, it gets pretty good. Explain ChatGPT and its capabilities, give a brief overview, explorations about how artists can use it, and the like. All right. So what is it good for? I have found ChatGPT to be great for brainstorming, for overcoming writer's block, for writing first drafts and outlines when you first start a project. And when you're ready to polish things up, ChatGPT can be great at proofreading. It can help you with grammar, and it can also spot errors, spelling errors specifically. Is this cheating? So someone mentioned a while ago, how long is it going to be before grant writers or grant giving institutions will start asking, well, was this written by a person or not? I really think that that is not going to happen, or if it does, it's really questionable. And so why is that? That's because you know, wealthy artists and nonprofits for a long time have been using grant writers for pay. And so, you know, most of us can't afford to hire a grant writer. So it just makes sense that, you know, this can be like one of our grant writing tools. It also is helpful for people who are English as a second language, and it can be really helpful in writing in different styles. So let's say you wanted to, you know, write with simpler words or write with more you know, fanciful language, then ChatGPT can help convert some of that language. And I really think that that can be part of, you know, part of our equity toolkit here. That not everyone, you know, has a full college education, and it's and some of these grants, you know, expect you to write in a certain way. because that's where they're coming from. So another thing is that artists are visual people. I spend all of my time, most of my time painting, or at least I wish I was, because really we're spending a lot of time on our administration stuff as artists. And so to expect artists to both be experts in visual languages and in written languages, I think is a little unfair. Now, keep in mind that we should understand our expectations and the expectations of our audience. If our audience wants us to, handwrite these applications or our statement, then, that is something that we need to keep in mind. We also have to keep in mind the limitations of the software. So, like I said before, ChatGPT isn't knowledgeable about everything. And we need to be upfront about our sources. So if somebody asks, I would not hesitate to say that I had the AI help me write something. How can ChatGPT help us, or AI writing? I found it could help with artist statements, press releases, catalog essays, grant writing, applications in general. It can help with research, but I'll get into that, how it's a little tricky. And also with artwork titles. I mean, I've been having some fun playing with that. More general uses, GPT can help you brainstorm, let's say for new ideas when coming up with projects for a grant. It definitely helps with editing, cleaning up grammar. It can also give us advice. So, it can remind us what a certain grant is looking for. And it can also find flaws in your logical statement. So you can ask it to highlight any confusing bits in a statement that you give it, and it does a pretty good job. I also love the expand function, that if you write something stream of consciousness, GPT will expand on those statements. So you can just write it a few sentences and ask it to expand. The pitfalls of GPT. So fake news is a huge one. It does not always give you true information. GPT's data set also stopped at 2020. So even I was wrong on the 2021. So you can't believe everything you hear on the internet. GPT can also start to give you hallucinations after a while. There were a few New York Times articles about that where I think a reporter had GPT was like falling in love with it and then threatening to kill the reporter. So depending on how you use the software, it can start to give you some kind of weird things. And then finally, GPT needs a knowledgeable person as its guide. And I put this little note on the bottom, but I really think that's the most important thing, that you are the knowledgeable user here. And the AI will only do a certain amount of work for you. You need to be always on top of it and always editing. All right, so let me give you another example as we go down. So I'm going to say, who is artist Jack LaHave? And I'm sure many of you, so it doesn't even really want to do that. So it doesn't even want to give me any information about that. I put this in earlier. I think it's also interesting. So GPT sometimes tells you that it doesn't want to give you information of stuff, and then sometimes it will give you that information. I think it depends on the different ways in which you ask. I've asked this before, and it gave me a bunch of false information about myself. It said that I showed at the National Portrait Gallery, which I haven't. It said that, I'm an expert in this and that and the other thing. So unfortunately, my example here is not working, which is a new software. So they keep changing. I think they actually just made an update. And so just be aware that some of the information you're using might not be totally true. All right, keys to the AI. The first key is your prompts. These are the words that you use to get the AI to respond to you. Words like expand, or I would like for a this or in the style of. Another key to the AI is to edit. So you always need to look at what it's saying. You should not just copy and paste this into an application or your statement. Feedback, having a dialogue with the AI leads to better results. And training, similarly, if you give the AI a bunch of information, it can then use that. But note that it will not retain the information from one session to the next. All right, so as we talk about prompts, here are some of the best prompts that I've found. Text lengths, you can ask it to write something short. You can also ask it to write something long. So that would be, either a few paragraphs, or it could write you up to a page or more. You can write me something in X amount of words. So write me something in 200 words. I've found, again, editing is important here. It will not always give you something within 200 words. Sometimes I ask for 200 words and it gives me 400. So for a lot of grant applications, that's important because they have character and word limits. Style, it can write in different styles, in the voice of, in the style of. It can recreate sentences. So if you have a sentence but you want the wording to be different, you can ask it to recreate or rephrase. It can contrast things. It can give you analogous to. For brainstorming, I love to have it give me bullet points. You can also use invent or define or provide examples of. Editing, you can have analyze, identify confusing sections. That's a really good one for artist statements. You could just plug in your artist statement and ask it to identify confusing sections. For writing, expand on or explain, compare and contrast. So these are all good prompts that we can use. As a style guide, we can also ask it to write in certain styles. So rewrite this in a casual or a formal style. Rewrite in the style of, and you can put in your favorite news outlet. Sometimes I like to say, in the style of the New York Times, or in the style of BuzzFeed. You can also write in the style of a specific person. So but that person needs to have plenty of written content on the web before 2020. So remember, the AI is only getting their information from a certain chunk of time. So if you're saying, write in the style of a really new author, it's not going to help you. But someone like Jerry Saltz or Roberta Smith or Susan Sontag, they have plenty of information out there. And so you can have it right in their style. And we'll get to some examples a little deeper in a second. So the general uses are brainstorming, editing, expanding, and advice. Brainstorming, come up with new ideas, give us bullet points, give us project ideas, and to rephrase things. So let's go back to the AI here. So let's say, give me 4 titles. Give me 4 titles like how to use AI for writing about your art. So exploring the role of AI and to enhance your creative process, from pixels to paint, how AI is revolutionizing the art world, the art of machine learning. So it gives me 4 good titles. Let's say I like a title. So I do a lot of copy and paste. So let's say I like the second title. So I say, give me 4 more titles like, and then I paste from pixels to paint. So then it gives me 4 more titles that are like that. Now remember the style. Can you say, rewrite those titles in the style of the New York Times? So you see it expanded the language a little to, exploring the intersection of creativity and technology, from digital to physical, how AI is paving the way for a new era of art. So those are more, I think it just expanded the knowledge, the language to to be a little more fanciful. I normally recommend with statements and grants to try and tone down the language. So rewrite those in simpler language. Let's see. So how computers are changing art, exploring the role of AI in creativity. So I think you get the idea here. You can really play with some of these things and have it expand. You can have it give you 10 examples. Give me 10 more examples, like number 1. And so, this is the brainstorming section, right? So you can just get a lot of ideas out there, and just ask it to bullet point things and give you those ideas. So expanding, it will polish your word of consciousness. It'll make one sentence into a paragraph. It'll reword phrasings, and it can also simplify and summarize. Get back to examples. So let's say I'm writing an artist statement. I can say expand on. So let's first tell it I'm writing an artist statement. Writing an artist statement. Sometimes it's good to give it a little background of what you're doing. All right, so right now it was going to give me all this advice on writing an artist statement. Start with a brief introduction. I mean, who knows if, again, it needs a knowledgeable user base, but some of this information might be good. I'm going to tell it to stop generating, because really what I want is to show you how to expand on something. Expand on my artwork involves craft-oriented vines made from felt and rope. I'm not even going to worry much about spelling because the AI will help me with that. Meandering vines remind me of how our journey is never fully known in life. So just a little stream of consciousness about what some of my work would be. All right. And then it just spews out material, and you can choose to. So it just gave me 4 paragraphs off of those 2 sentences. It's not a full artist statement because I just asked it to expand, but I could say, rewrite that as an artist statement. As an artist, I create craft-oriented vines from felt and rope. Through these meandering vines, I explore the themes of life's unpredictable journey. I mean, this is, pretty good. You can also ask it to rewrite that in the style of Susan Sontag. And then it ups the language a little bit. You can add it to insert sections. You can add it to ask it to identify confusing sections within that statement. But it's pretty powerful, and just in like 2 minutes, I came up with a relatively acceptable statement that, of course, I would need to sit down and edit if I had a little more time. All right, editing, polishing up grammar, identifying spelling mistakes, using more appropriate words, and simplifying languages. So let's go back here, and let's go here to this is my website. So this is the foster paintings that I did. They're referencing different foster children that we've had contact with. But more importantly, I have this section of writing there, and that section of writing I wrote myself about a year and a half ago. I'm going to plug it in here, and I'm going to ask it to edit this for grammar and spelling. And then I put a colon, and I just paste that whole 3 paragraphs that I got from my website. Here is the edited version. And does a pretty good job of just editing. I think in the first place, it was pretty good, pretty well edited, but that is an example of a way that you can have it edit for spelling and grammar. You just copy and paste. I will note that ChatGPT, at least, it doesn't like too much information at once, so I would keep it to within 4 paragraphs at a time. Any more than that, and it'll either spit it back at you or tell you we can't do it. All right, so editing example we just gave, advice. So other things it can do, it can give you alternate word phrasing. I said it can identify confusing sections. It can give you useful statistics, which is kind of cool because a lot of grants and applications kind of like it when you lay out what the issues are, and oftentimes statistics help make a case for that. And it can also help keep you on track. So let's go back to this example. Using this previous text, I am going to ask it to identify confusing sections in that previous text. Sections in the previous text. So it says the phrase gem-like shape may be unclear to some readers. That's, interesting. The use of the term flash may be unfamiliar to some readers. So, which is true. Flash is a type of vinyl binder paint, and not everyone knows that. So I think that part is really cool because I think that's one of the most difficult things about editing is seeing outside yourself, and the AI can do a pretty good job at locating some of the more confusing sections in your writing. All right, let's do a hands-on example of a grant that is upcoming. Let's see. So the first thing we need to do is start with training the AI. So one of the things I like to do is tell it what I'm doing. So I'm an artist applying for an upcoming grant. It'll start spewing stuff, but I'm not interested in what it has to say right now. Right now, I'm more interested in telling it about myself. So I have this is my website. I have my bio here. So I'm going to copy and paste my bio. Here is my bio. Stop. I don't need to get more information from it. Let me give it my CV too. I'm just going to give it some of my CV so that here is my CV. So this is I'm going to do a very quick job of training. But the more information you give this thing, the better. This is a recent piece of press that I've had. So that's a great source of information for the AI, is somebody else writing about you or about something similar. Here is a recent piece of press. All right, I'm going to tell it to stop. And then I identified the Burke Prize. Now, the Burke Prize is for artists under 45 years of age. I am officially turning 46 on Thursday, so I don't know if this is a great thing for me to apply to. But you go to the grant's website and you take the description of the grant, and that is very important to give the AI if you're applying to something. So I'm applying to the Burke Prize. Here is its description. All right, so here are some tips on incorporating the Burke Prize into your grant application. Highlight how your work aligns with the goals of the Burke Prize. So this is sort of a little more interesting, that it really does a pretty good job at identifying what you're going to need for the grant. So that is something that I will end up coming back to. All right. This is more information about the Burke Prize, blah, 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 birthday. It needs a resume, a CV, and then here's one of the first questions that it asks. And it doesn't give us a word count, so that's interesting because that's unusual for many grants. But how do you view craft as a field now? And how do you see your practice within the craft's trajectory? So let's just ask the AI. And so here's where, like, if you have some writer's block, this can be a great tool for sort of unleashing the beginning of how to answer some of these questions. Using my work, how, let's change this a little. How does it fit into the craft field? And how do you envision it? Let's just ask it the first part. How does it fit into the craft field? So I looked at my bio and press coverage, and it says that my work does not fit neatly into one craft category. This is another, this is a pretty important thing with grants, is understanding if you actually are appropriate for the grant. What this is telling me is that the body of work that I gave it maybe does not fully fall into traditional craft, but I think we could use a lot of this to expand beyond that. Let's see, my use of craft materials and techniques can be seen as a way to explore themes related to community, belonging, cultural history. I mean, all that's really good and true. How answer how the field of craft is changing. So the field of craft is constantly evolving and changing in response to broader culture. So, this just really just spews out content on how, on the question that they asked. You can then use a lot of the other tricks that we've learned, right? Of bullet pointing, of expanding. You can copy and paste and ask it to expand. Let's say I really like the expanding definition of craft. So I can take this and I can say expand on this into 3 paragraphs. And so I copy and pasted the expanding field of craft, and the field of craft has undergone a significant transformation. Let's say I didn't like how that was worded, then I can ask it to change it. I can say rewrite that in the style of the New York Times, or in the style rewrite that in the style of Jerry Saltz. And it becomes this very, populist piece of writing. Buckle up, my fellow art lovers. That's a terrible Jerry Saltz impersonation, but you sort of get the point. Let's say, give me a statistic on the field of craft. Let's see what it gives. From the Craft Industry Alliance, the craft industry in the United States generates over $444 billion in annual economic impact, employs over 400. That's not totally useful to us, but I'm sure with a little digging, we could get further. I will say that if you get a statistic, you should definitely double check your sources, right? All right. So that is, the basics. Of course, then you need to take this and you need to copy and paste it into a document, and you need to edit it, make sure that it looks good. You can then filter it back through the AI, ask it for any confusing or places where it's unclear. Another thing you can do is, let's say, go back to the question it asked. And we say, how do you see your practice within the craft's trajectory? How do you see, let's ask it a little bit more, my practice within the craft's trajectory. All right. It did not like that question. But it says your use of material like felt and rope, as well as your interest in the emotional resonances of your experiences. As a foster parent, speak to the tactile and personal aspects of the craft tradition. So let's say, so another thing that I like with these types of applications is rewrite this specifically for the Burke Prize. And if you gave it enough information about the Burke Prize, it should be able to give you something. In the context of the Burke Prize, your work stands out for its exploration of traditional craft techniques, as well as its willingness to push the boundaries of discipline. You see, that first sentence to me sounds a little like bullshit. And is something that I would dig a little deeper into in terms of editing. My use of tactile materials like felt and rope combined with, and then, that's again the other sentence that it gave me. That one, rings pretty true. I've also found that ChatGPT itself is a little wordy. Another thing that it likes to do is hedge. So it says it likes to use the word may, and for grant applications and statements, I think using more definite terms is better. So this, I don't know if it has any examples here, but it could write like your practice may reflect a commitment to innovation and experience. It doesn't say that, but I would then change it to something more like this. My practice reflects a commitment to innovation and experimentation within the craft field. So that is there. Go back. And so finally, what to do when ChatGPT is busy. Embarrassingly, right before we started today, ChatGPT was extremely busy and I was not able to log on. And I was extremely worried that I'm going to be giving this talk and there won't be any way for me to show you examples. So a few things to do with ChatGPT specifically. I actually have been paying for the service. It's about $20 a month, I believe, which does feel really expensive, but I've been using it for a lot of other things. I've been using it for some blog writing, and then using it, of course, for grant writing and some simpler tasks. And things that you can do, they have tricks. So paying for it is, of course, the first thing that I would say, but they also say that you can just try refreshing your page. You can go into incognito mode and you can go on a VPN. Of course, those can be more complicated technical things to do, but if you are a little savvy, you can do them. All right, that's our talk today on AI and using it for artist writing. Please visit our website at racialjusticeart.org for more info and more talks. Thank you.